Are you considering buying Stardew Valley? In this video, I'm gonna give you a full review of the game. We're gonna look at the pros and cons and everything you need to know before you buy Stardew Valley. But is the game actually worth playing? Let's find out. I'm on Game Grader here. Stardew Valley is a farming RPG life simulator game, and the goal of the game is to explore and meet new people, fight monsters, and build a massive farm. Now in Stardew Valley, you have complete control over everything you do. The game has a ton of varied content, and you can always choose what you prefer to play. You can focus entirely on building a farm, mining, fishing, and tons more if you so desire. But hands down, the best part is when you combine all of them. In early game of Stardew Valley, you start out on a brand new farm where you don't know anybody and you have almost no money. Here the game and the grind begins. The game will give you a small crest to grant you an early game goal, all while you try and build the biggest and prettiest farm ever. When you complete certain tasks, you'll receive gold, and you will also increase your relationship with that quest giver. And this will unlock more quests for you, and you'll become friends with the quest giver. Now exploration is a major part of the game. There's a lot of different biomes, different areas to visit, and of course walking around and talking with people and building up relationships with the local NPCs. Stardew Valley is incredibly player friendly. This is the kind of game you can pick up and just play immediately. You don't have to look up guides, you don't have to look up tutorials. The game will show you, or you'll just learn over time by playing. It is not a difficult game. There's a lot of stuff to know in terms of what content there is and what's the best, of course, but it is a great game for all kinds of players. And one of the best things about Stardew Valley is the amount of content. There will be something for every player to do. If you like farming, fishing, mining, exploration, there's so much stuff to do, and that'll be something that fits each player's playstyle. Now Stardew Valley is on full release and costs $15 for PC and most consoles, but it's also available on phone for $5, but it's definitely not an expensive game at all. Now in Stardew Valley, you are rewarded for hard work. You can take two routes in Stardew Valley. You can either take the money route and become rich, but then you also miss half the game, or you can immerse yourself in exploring the town and what the game has to offer, but then you miss the managing part of Stardew Valley. So you need to find a perfect combination of the exploration and the grinding part. One of the game mechanics of Stardew Valley is the energy. So every day you start with a certain energy amount, and each activity such as mining, chopping wood, etc. all use energy. Now this energy can of course be regained in-game by eating food, relaxing, or sleeping at night. Farming in Stardew Valley is also a big part of it. It's a fairly simple and easy to understand mechanic. So at the start of the season, you buy seeds at the store, and then you care for your plants by watering them each day, and then you sell them back at the store again when you harvested them. You can of course also raise animals on your farm and upgrade your house. Stardew Valley also has combat system. Now this combat is pretty basic, and the combat is done in the mines, and the deeper you go, the harder the monsters become, but you also get better loot the deeper you go. The combat and weapon stats are pretty basic, but fits the game fairly well. Now as I mentioned before, the game has quests to complete, but there's also a storyline. This storyline is pretty important to progress further into the game. I'm not gonna spoil it of course, but it basically revolves around you rebuilding the town center. Completing parts of the storyline unlocks more content and adds a nice progression to the game. Now Stardew Valley is all about community and being cozy, and that is one of the game's strengths. So your farm is part of a small cozy community with a population of about 25 people, and the game does a wonderful job of making each character feel like their own entity. They all have their daily routines, backstories, and motivations, and the more you talk with them, the more you'll get to know them, the more you'll love each character in your city. You can of course also date and marry them later on if you so choose, but this social aspect of talking with NPCs is a big part of the game. Now in terms of replayability, you can spend hundreds if not thousands of hours playing Stardew Valley. This can be done by building, progressing, and customizing your farm and house, and also just a ton of variety content is insane. The exploration, the interacting with people in your town, the farming, the mining, you will never run out of things to do. There's also a nice and linear progression, so the more you repeat the same action, the better you become. So the more you mine, the higher your skills in mining get, and this will unlock new recipes, which can be great for progressing further in the game. So you can unlock new tools, you can unlock a furnace, and tons of really cool stuff. If you're liking the video so far, make sure to book the like button as it really helps out the channel. Thank you so much. Now some of the best things about the game is also the visuals. The graphics are nice, they're clean, and they fit the game with the art style really well. You also have a ton of character customization, so you can make your own character and try and make it look like you or whatever you want to. The game also has great music and sound design, really pleasing, adds a lot to the atmosphere and the immersion. Now let's talk about some pros and cons of the game. So to start off with the pros, the game is super relaxing and immersive. If you're struggling or you're just feeling down, this game will bring you up. It is so cozy and it'll make you relax in a minute. The next part is there's tons of content. There's insane replayability with the amount of things you can do and explore. You will never run out of things to do, as you can always progress further in the game. And a big one for me is farming is actually fun. In some games close to the genre, the farming can be very tedious and boring, but this is not the case for Stardew Valley at all. The farming is done simply, smooth, and in a way that feels really satisfying. Now for the cons. The game can get quite repetitive and grindy to reach certain unlocks of the progression, so at some point you might just have to to farm for a specific skill point or just farm a ton of money to get to the next part. But of course, if you enjoy that grind, this will not be a problem for you at all. Now, I also found that combat was a bit too basic. Now, it does fit the game and the playstyle, but a bit more variety, a bit more skills, etc. would be nice in terms of the combat, but it is not a big con. Now, let's grade the game, shall we? The first thing we're looking at is, of course, gameplay. That's the most important part of the game. You can ignore a lot of mechanics as long as the gameplay is good and if the game works as intended. So here we're looking at mechanics, system, and if the game works as intended. And here I have to give Stardew Valley an A+. I almost never give this grade, but it is just so good. The mechanics work, the systems are amazing, and the game just works as intended. The game definitely delivers on its promise of what the game is. The next thing we're looking at is the graphics, the sound, and immersion. Basically, do you get these wow moments where the game just blows you away with how beautiful it is. And here Stardew Valley also definitely gets an A. It is not a typical game I would play in terms of the graphics, but they definitely fit the game so well here. The art style, the sound, the immersion, it all works together to create a great atmosphere and amazing immersion. And the final thing we are grading on is the progression and replayability. Basically, does the effort feel meaningful? What's looking at the story here? And here Stardew Valley also gets an A. I'm close to giving it A+, but there are a few moments in the game where you just have to grind, and that brings it down a little bit. Also, the story is open-ended, but that could be a pro or a con. And therefore, the overall grade of Stardew Valley is a big A. This is an amazing game, and I would highly recommend everyone to buy it. Even if you don't normally like these kind of games, you will enjoy it. And for only $15, you will get so much content and so much replayability. That's absolutely ridiculous. So if you're looking for a simple game to pick up, you can start playing immediately, and that will offer you tons of content and replayability. This game is definitely for you. And in conclusion, Stardew Valley is an amazing farming sim game, and it's absolutely worth buying and playing. If you found this video useful, make sure to check out the video on the screen now, as I think you'll also really enjoy that game review. Thanks for watching. Peace out.